Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine it is 2:00 a.m.
Oh, I know this place.
You are sitting in that cheap ergonomic chair that definitely hurts your back. The only light in the room is that blue glow from your computer monitor. You've got like 20 tabs open on your browser.
The universal posture of the modern creative. It's a global phenomenon.
Exactly. You have headphones on and your ears are just ringing because you've been listening to snare drums for 4 hours straight. You're scrolling through a beat store. You've heard 100 Drake-type beats that, let's be honest, sound nothing like Drake.
Yeah.
You've heard 50 lo-fi chill beats that just kind of made you sleepy. You are about to give up. You're ready to close the laptop and just go to bed.
And then it happens.
Then it happens. You click play on one random track, and suddenly, boom, the kick drum hits you right in the chest. The melody's haunting. The hi-hats have that perfect swing you've been looking for. You stop scrolling.
You sit up a little straighter in that cheap chair.
You do. You get that little shiver on the back of your neck. You think, this is it. This is the one. This is the song that changes everything.
It's a magical moment. It really is. I mean, that's the part we all live for, right? It's that moment of discovery where the potential just feels infinite.
It feels like actual magic.
Yeah.
So what do? You hit purchase. You pay your $20, or maybe you use a credit from a subscription, and you download the file. You see that little WAV file sitting there on your desktop, and you feel like you just bought a gold bar.
Yep, the journey's over. Or so you think.
Or so you think. You are ready to record. But, and here's the buzzkill, and this is why we are here today, you have the audio file, sure, but what do you actually have?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because attached to that WAV file, usually buried in a PDF that, let's be real, nobody ever reads.
The terms and conditions checkbox that we all just lie about reading.
We all lie. And that document, it isn't just, digital decoration or a receipt. It is the rulebook. It defines whether you have a hit song on your hands or a legal nightmare that could literally bankrupt you.
Wow. Okay, so it feels like there is this massive tension between the artistic side, the magic of finding the beat, and this business side, which is cold, hard contract law.
There is. And the difference between a career-making hit and a devastating lawsuit often comes down to understanding that one document, the license.
So today we are stripping away the magic for a little bit. We are going to look at the machinery that runs underneath. We are talking about the beat license blueprint. We're going to decode the jargon so you don't have to. We're going to look at the two titans of this industry: the non-exclusive license and the exclusive license.
And we really need to talk about a pretty massive shift that is happening in the industry right now. It's changing the entire game.
Right. For the last 10 years or so, it's been all about these massive marketplaces. You know the names: BeatStars, Airbit. They're like the Amazon of beats. You go there, you buy one thing at a time.
The a la carte model.
Exactly. But our research for this deep dive really highlights a shift towards subscription models. We're seeing platforms like BeatPass completely challenge that status quo, and it's changing the entire math on how these licenses work for artists.
It is fundamentally shifting the risk profile for artists. It's moving away from a pay-per-use or pay-per-beat model to more of an access model, and that has huge legal and financial implications.
So our mission today is simple. We want to make sure that no one listening to this deep dive ever gets burned because they didn't understand what they were buying. I want to start with the landscape where I think it's fair to say 99% of independent artists live. The starter pack.
The non-exclusive license. This is the bread and butter of the entire independent music industry. If you're an indie artist, this is your world.
So let's define it. I pay my money or use my subscription credit. I get the beat. But the term is non-exclusive. What exactly is the core concept here?
The core concept is sharing. Or, if you want to be a little more precise, it's really renting. When you acquire a non-exclusive license, think of it like renting an apartment in a massive complex.
Okay, I like that analogy. I'm with you.
You have a lease agreement. That lease gives you the right to live there. You can paint the walls, which in this analogy is you recording your vocals over the beat.
Sure, I'm making it my own.
You can bring in your own furniture. That's your lyrics, your ad-libs. You can invite people over for a party. That's you distributing the finished song to Spotify and Apple Music.
But I don't own the building.
You do not own the building. The landlord, who is the producer, retains full ownership of the structure itself. And here is the real kicker with non-exclusives. Because they own the building, they can rent the exact same apartment layout to the guy next door and to the girl across the hall and the family upstairs.
So I could be scrolling through Spotify, feeling amazing about my new song, and then suddenly I hear the exact same instrumental, the same melody on someone else's track.
Absolutely. And legally, that is completely fine. That is the fundamental trade-off you make. You are getting access to professional production, which might have cost thousands of dollars for the producer to create for, the price of a pizza or as part of a low-cost subscription. You get that incredible value because you are agreeing to share the asset.
That makes sense. It's a volume game for the producer and an access game for the artist.
So let's talk about what I actually get in this rental agreement. I get the right to record. I get the right to release. What about the actual files themselves? It's not always the same, is it?
No, it's usually tiered, especially in the traditional marketplaces. The most basic tier often just gets you an MP3 file.
Which is not great. Right?
It's a compressed file. It's fine for writing a demo, for figuring out your melodies, but for a final, professional-sounding mix, not ideal. You lose some of that audio quality, some of that punch.
So what's the next step up?
The next step is usually the WAD file. That's CD quality. It's a full-resolution audio file, and that's what your engineer is going to want to work with for the final master. Okay, and then there's the top tier, the premium lease, or whatever they call it, that usually comes with stems. I want to pause on stems for a second, because we see this term everywhere. Trackouts. Stems. Why do I want those? Why should I care?
Control. It's all about control. An MP3 or a WAV file is a stereo file. It's like a cake that's already baked.
Right.
You can't take the eggs out. You can't add more sugar. If the kick drum is too loud in the mix, or if there is a weird synth sound that you absolutely hate, you are stuck with it. You can try to EQ it out, but it's messy.
You can't turn down just the snare drum.
Exactly. Stems are the individual ingredients. You get a separate audio file for the kick, a separate one for the snare, one for the bass, one for the piano, and so on. It allows your mix engineer to truly mix your vocals into the beat, rather than just having them sit on top of it.
So they can, carve out a little space for my voice in the instrumental.
Precisely. They can make the vocal and the beat sound like one cohesive song, not two separate things glued together. It is the single biggest factor in making a song sound professional.
Okay, so that's the what. Now I want to talk about the trap. Because in the research for this deep dive, there was one term that kept coming up over and over again as a major headache for artists, especially on the traditional marketplaces. The stream cap.
This is the most confusing and honestly the most punitive aspect of the traditional a la carte marketplace model. It's a relic of a different era.
Let's break this down, because I look at these contracts from places like BeatStars or Airbit, and I see these numbers like 2,500 streams or 10,000 streams. And to a brand new artist, that sounds like a lot.
It does. You think, man, if I get 10,000 streams, I'm famous. I'll worry about it then. It feels like a problem you'd be lucky to have.
Right. Feels like a high-class problem. Oh no, my song is too popular.
But let's actually look at the math behind it. This is where we need to apply some game theory to it. Do you know what Spotify pays per stream, roughly?
Oh man, it changes all the time, but it's fractions of a penny. Like what, 0.3 of a cent? Something like that.
It's depressingly low. Let's be generous and say it's 0.0044 per stream, 0.4 of 1 cent.
Okay.
So pull out your mental calculator. If you buy a basic lease on a marketplace that caps you at 2,500 streams, what is 2,500 times 0.0044?
Let's see, 2,500 times 0.04, that'd be $10.
$10. Now, how much did you pay for that basic lease?
Usually around $20 or $30 on those traditional sites.
Exactly. So follow the logic here. The contract says you have to stop promoting your song and renew your lease, which costs you more money, before you have even earned back half of what you paid for the first lease.
Whoa! When you put it that way, it's a guaranteed loss. You are technically in the red from a streaming royalty perspective before you even hit the cap.
It's what I call the pessimism tax. The entire structure is built on the assumption that your song will fail to reach even a modest number of streams. And if, against the odds, you succeed, it penalizes you immediately. It forces you into an upgrade cycle before the song has even had a chance to prove it can make a profit.
It feels like a trap. It's like, congratulations on your success. Now pay up. It's like a shakedown. Nice little song you have there. Be ashamed if something happened to it.
It is leverage. I don't think producers are trying to be evil necessarily. They're just using the tools the marketplaces give them to try and upsell you. They want a tripwire. They want an automated notification that says, hey, this artist's song is actually getting some traction, so they can reach out and force you to buy the $100 license or the $200 license.
But practically speaking, what happens? Let's say I release a song. I go to sleep, I wake up, and some TikTok trend happened overnight. I'm at 15,000 streams. I'm way, way past my 2,500 cap. Am I going to jail?
You are not going to jail. But technically, at stream number 2501, you are in breach of contract. You are operating without a valid license.
So I'm infringing on the producer's copyright at that point.
Yes. From a legal standpoint, your song is now an illegal upload. Now, is the producer sitting there hitting refresh on your Spotify for Artists page every 5 minutes? Probably not.
Okay, good.
But if that song really blows up, if it hits 100,000 streams or 1,000,000 streams, that is when the producer has all the power. They can come to you and say, you broke the contract. The price for the upgrade is now $5,000. Or they can simply issue a DMCA takedown notice and have the song pulled from Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere.
So you're living with this sword of Damocles hanging over your head. You're rooting for your song to do well, but if it does too well, you're in trouble. It's a terrible creative headspace to be in.
It creates a ceiling on your ambition. You have to constantly monitor your own stats to make sure you aren't becoming too successful for your own paperwork. It's an insane level of anxiety that an artist just doesn't need.
And this is where that shift to subscription models, specifically what we're seeing with a platform like BeatPass, becomes really, really interesting. It seems like they looked at this entire stream cap anxiety and just decided to completely opt out of it.
It is a significant fundamental differentiator. BeatPass operates more like a gym membership or Netflix. You pay a monthly fee and you get access to the entire catalog. But the key distinction in their legal terms is that their standard non-exclusive license, the one you get with every single download, is completely uncapped.
Uncapped. So if I get 1,000,000 streams,
You're good. You have a valid license.
Yeah.
No tripwires, no forced renegotiation, no stream 2501 panic attack.
that seems like a massive psychological weight lifted off the artist's shoulders.
It connects to the bigger picture of how music is consumed today. In a world where algorithms and playlists drive streams, you can't predict your numbers. A song can do nothing for 6 months and then suddenly blow up. A stream cap feels archaic in that environment. BeatPass is essentially saying, go be great, go get 1,000,000 streams, we will not penalize you for it.
It changes the entire incentive structure.
Yeah.
But there's another worry with subscriptions that I always hear about. I call it the Netflix fear. If I stop paying for my Netflix subscription, I can't watch The Office anymore. Does the same thing apply here?
That is the number one question artists have about the subscription model, and it's a valid one. If I cancel my BeatPass subscription, do I have to take all my songs down?
Right. Does the landlord come and kick me out of my apartment?
No. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The key legal term here is perpetuity.
Perpetuity. As in, forever.
The license you generate the moment you download that beat is perpetual. It allows you to use that beat for the entire lifetime of that specific song. It survives the cancellation of the subscription.
Wait, so I could sign up for BeatPass for 1 month, download 10 beats, make 10 songs, then cancel my subscription, and those 10 songs can stay on Spotify for the next 20 years.
As long as you downloaded them and generated the license while you were an active subscriber, yes. The license locks in your rights for those specific songs at that moment in time forever.
That is a very, very different value proposition than renting in the traditional sense, where you have to keep paying rent to keep the lights on.
Exactly. It's not renting an apartment. It's more like getting a lifetime lease for a fixed upfront cost. You're building a catalog of assets you can use forever.
I want to talk about the money side of this starter pack a bit more, because for an indie artist, cash flow is everything. In that traditional marketplace model, how much am I really spending if I want to be consistent?
Well, let's do the math again.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a dedicated artist. You want to release a new song every 2 weeks. That's 26 songs a year.
Okay, ambitious, but doable.
If you are buying a la carte on a marketplace and you want decent quality, let's say you're getting the WAV lease every time at $50 each, which is pretty standard. That is $1,300 a year just on instrumentals.
Wow.
And that's before you pay for mixing, mastering, cover art, music videos, marketing, any of it. Your beat budget alone is over $1,000.
And that's a big if. That's assuming you only buy beats for the songs you actually finish and release.
Right. And that is the huge hidden cost of the a la carte model. How many beats do you buy that you're excited about for an hour, and then you start writing to them and you realize this just isn't working?
Oh, dozens. I'll buy a beat, record a verse, listen back the next day and go, nope, this isn't it. And that $50 is just gone to sunk cost.
Exactly. It creates what I call a cost of failure. If every single experiment costs you $50, You are going to be very, very risk averse. You're only going to buy the safe beats that sound like everything else. You aren't going to take chances on weird, innovative production.
And that's where the subscription model completely flips the economics on its head.
With a platform like BeatPass, the marginal cost of the next beat is zero. You pay your monthly subscription, you can download 10 beats, you can write to all of them, you can record demos. If 9 of them turn out to be terrible, you just delete the files. It didn't cost you anything extra.
It makes experimentation effectively free.
And that is how you grow as an artist. You need the freedom to make bad songs so you can find the great ones. The subscription model removes the financial penalty for trial and error, which is the very essence of the creative process.
Okay, so that's the non-exclusive landscape. It's accessible, it's affordable, and if you choose the right platform like BeatPass, it's uncapped and encourages creativity. But it's still shared. It's still a rental at the end of the day.
It is.
Let's say you want to move up a weight class. You've got a song you really believe in. You want to own the block. Let's talk about segment 2, the exclusive license.
The big league. The ownership model.
This is a different beast entirely, isn't it? Define it for me. What happens the moment I sign that exclusive contract and the money leaves my bank account?
The fundamental shift is that the producer stops selling the beat, effective immediately. You become the only new licensee going forward.
It's the closed door policy.
Exactly. You walk into that apartment and you lock the door behind you. No one else can come in and rent a unit after you.
But, and this is a huge but, that I see artists getting confused and angry about all the time. What about the people who are already in the room? The people who rented an apartment before I bought the building?
Yes. This is where we have to use the time machine analogy. Buying an exclusive license is not a time machine. You cannot go back and erase the past.
I think this is where artists get the most frustrated. They'll say, I paid $5,000 for this exclusive. Why is there some kid in Germany with 300 monthly listeners who has a song on Spotify using my beat?
And the answer is always the same. Because the kid in Germany bought a non-exclusive lease 2 weeks ago. He has a valid, binding contract. Just because you bought the exclusive today doesn't invalidate his contract from yesterday.
So you own the future of the beat, but the past is still shared territory.
Precisely. You own the future. Now, practically speaking, the field does eventually clear over time. Those previous non-exclusive leases will either expire, or if they have those pesky stream caps, which, as we discussed, most traditional marketplace leases do, those artists will hit their cap and go to renew.
And they'll find the shop is closed for business.
Exactly. The beat is no longer for sale. They can't renew. Legally, they have to take their song down. So eventually, after a year or two, you likely will be the only one left standing. But it is not an instantaneous process.
Okay, that's a really important clarification. Let's talk about what you actually unlock with an exclusive. Besides closing the door to new people, what rights do I get?
You generally get unlimited rights across the board. No stream caps, ever. Full commercial use. That means radio, TV, movies, commercials. You almost always get the stems, the highest quality files. But the holy grail, the real technical reason that most people drop the big money on exclusives, is one specific right.
Content ID.
YouTube Content ID.
We hear this term thrown around constantly, Content ID. It sounds like a badge of honor you wear. But why is this the real dividing line? Why is this the one thing that truly separates the renters from the owners?
To understand this, we have to look at how the technology actually works. We need to visualize it. Imagine a beat is a mountain range. It has specific peaks and valleys in its audio waveform. It has a very specific shape.
Okay, I'm picturing a jagged skyline, like an EKG readout.
Perfect. Now, when you record your vocals over it, you are planting trees on that mountain. To a human ear, the landscape has completely changed. It's your song now. But YouTube's Content ID robot, it has X-ray vision, it looks right through your trees, and it sees the exact same mountain range underneath.
It completely ignores my artistic contribution, my vocals.
Completely. It fingerprints the underlying geometry of the instrumental. Now imagine you have a non-exclusive license. That means 10, maybe 50, maybe 100 other artists have all rented that same mountain range.
And we are all planting different kinds of trees on it.
Right. But if you go and register your song with Content ID, you are effectively telling YouTube, this entire mountain range, this piece of land, it belongs to me and only me.
I'm claiming ownership of the land itself.
You are. And the moment you do that, YouTube's robot scans its entire database of billions of videos. It finds my video where I legally licensed and used the same beat. The robot says, aha, I see the mountain range from the host's song appearing inside the expert's video.
And it flags you. It issues a copyright claim against you.
It strikes me, it sends me an email saying I am stealing your content and that you will be collecting all the ad revenue from my video. But I'm not. I paid for my lease too.
So we have a digital civil war on our hands.
A massive civil war. It creates an absolute mess of false copyright claims. It penalizes the producer. It penalizes the other legal licensees. That is why you can only register for Content ID if you have the exclusive rights. It is the only way to cleanly claim the revenue on your song without accidentally attacking all the other artists who also legally license the beat.
That makes perfect sense. It's about preventing collisions. If you own the exclusive, you are the only one on that mountain, so there is no one else to accidentally flag.
Correct. You have a clean claim to the territory.
Let's talk about the cost. Because we jumped from a subscription model where the marginal cost is basically free to, well, what kind of money are we talking about for an exclusive?
It varies hugely. An emerging producer who is just looking to get a placement and build their brand might sell an exclusive for $200 or $300. But if you are looking at an established in-demand producer, you are looking at $2,000, $5,000. And I've seen them go for well over $10,000.
That is a serious investment for an independent artist. That could be their entire music budget for a year.
It is, and this is another area where platform transparency becomes a really big deal. In our research, we looked at how BeatPass handles these exclusive sales versus some of the other marketplaces.
And how does it differ?
On many traditional marketplaces, the platform takes a significant cut of that exclusive sale. Sometimes it's a 30% or even 40% commission, or there are other hidden fees. This naturally forces the producer to jack up their asking price just to cover the platform's cut.
So I, the artist, am paying more just so the middleman gets a bigger piece of the pie.
Right. The BeatPass model is interesting because the producer keeps 100% of their set price for the exclusive.
Really? 100%. How does a platform make money then?
The buyer, you, the artist, pays a separate, transparent platform fee on top of the producer's price. The producer gets their full asking price every time. That transparency helps everyone because the producer doesn't have to inflate their numbers to compensate for a hidden commission. You know exactly how much is going to the creator and how much is going to the platform.
That's refreshing. It feels more honest. So, okay, we have these two very clear paths. The starter pack, not exclusive, which is low risk, low cost, and shared. And the big league exclusive, which is high cost, high control, and Content ID ready. The big question for every artist listening is, which one do you actually need?
This is the strategic decision, and frankly, this is where most artists get it wrong. They let their ego or their ambition make the decision instead of their bank account and their data.
Let's run some scenarios to make this tangible. I want to create a character here. Let's call him Lo-Fi Larry.
Okay, hello, Larry.
Larry is a classic bedroom artist. He loves being in the studio. He's super prolific. He's dropping a new song every single month on SoundCloud and Spotify. He doesn't have a label. He works at a coffee shop to fund his music.
Yeah.
What should Larry do?
Larry should run, not walk away from buying exclusives.
Why? Larry wants to be a star. He wants to own his masters. He wants that control.
Larry is going to go broke. It is financial suicide to be buying exclusive licenses for every track when you are in the experimentation and volume phase of your career. If Larry releases 12 songs a year and he pays even $500 for each exclusive, which is pretty cheap for an exclusive, that is $6,000 a year just on instrumentals.
And he hasn't even paid for the mixing, the mastering, or the cover art yet.
Right. He has blown his entire annual music budget before the songs are even out in the world. And statistically speaking, 11 of those 12 songs are going to get less than 1,000 streams. He is paying premium ownership prices for assets that are not generating any meaningful return on investment.
So for Larry, the non-exclusive, specifically the subscription model where he can get unlimited beats, is the only way to financially survive.
It allows him to play the volume game that modern music requires. He can release 12 songs or 24 songs for the single price of a subscription. If one of them pops off, great. If they all flop, he lost nothing but his time. He can try again next month.
Okay, what about another character? Let's call her podcaster Paula. You need some intro and outro music for her new show about, I don't know, sustainable gardening.
Paula definitely does not need an exclusive. She just needs the right to use the music in her content. A standard non-exclusive license covers podcasts, YouTube background music, Twitch streams, all of that. Buying the exclusive rights for background music is like buying a Ferrari just to drive to your mailbox at the end of the driveway. It's complete overkill.
Okay, scenario B. And this, I think, is the golden path that the expert analysis in our source material really advocates for. The upgrade path.
This is the smartest, most capital-efficient strategy for 99% of independent artists. It combines the low-risk safety of renting with the high-reward power of owning.
Walk me through the timeline. How does this actually work in the real world?
Okay. Step 1. You're on a platform like BeatPass. You find a beat you love. You download it with your subscription. Total marginal cost, $0.
Check. Got the files.
Step 2. You record the song. You get it mixed and mastered. You release it everywhere using the Uncapped Perpetual non-exclusive license that came with it.
Song is out. It's living in the world. No stream cap anxiety.
Step 3. And this is the most crucial step. Watch the data. Don't guess. Measure. Maybe the song sits there at 500 streams. It's a dud. That's okay. You move on to the next one. You spent no money on the license.
But maybe.
Maybe it catches fire. Maybe a big Spotify playlist adds it. Maybe a blog writes about it. Maybe it hits 50,000 streams in its first month. Maybe a label A&R person sends you a DM on Instagram saying, hey, love this track. Who produced this?
That's the trigger. That's the signal.
That is the trigger. Now you have proof of value. You have data. Now it makes financial sense to open your wallet. You go back to the platform where you got the beat and you say, this is the one. I want to buy the exclusive rights.
So you are investing in a proven winner rather than gambling on a guess.
Exactly. You are letting the market tell you which of your songs is worth investing in. It's the most intelligent, data-driven way to build a career.
I have to play devil's advocate here. There is a risk to waiting, right? There has to be a catch.
The one that got away. The nightmare scenario.
Yes, while I'm waiting for my data, while I'm watching those streams slowly tick up from 10K to 50K. The beat is still for sale on the marketplace.
It is. The door is still open.
So some other artist, let's call him Big Spender Bob, could come along, hear that same beat, love it just as much as I do, and buy the exclusive out from under me while I'm asleep.
That is the nightmare scenario. You have a song that is starting to go viral. You go to upgrade, you click the link, and you see the words sold out.
What happens to my song then? Am I totally screwed?
You aren't screwed in the sense that your song has to come down. Remember, you have that valid, perpetual, non-exclusive license. Your song stays up on Spotify. You keep collecting your royalties from it.
But I can never upgrade.
You can never upgrade. You can never get content ID for it. You can never stop other new artists from using it if the exclusive wasn't sold. You have hit a permanent ceiling on that particular song's potential.
So it is a gamble. You are betting that you can prove your song's value faster than someone else can come along and buy the beat.
It is a gamble, but let's look at the odds. There are literally millions of beats available online. The chances of another artist buying the specific exclusive you want in the specific month or two that you are testing it are relatively low. Compare that risk to the 100% certainty of going broke if you try to buy exclusives for every single demo you make.
When you put it that way, the risk is absolutely worth it.
For the vast majority of artists, yes. It's a calculated risk that pays off far more often than it fails.
There is one final scenario mentioned in the notes, which feels like an exception to this rule. Scenario C, brand identity.
This is a rare but very valid situation. Sometimes you find a producer or a sound that is just you. It becomes the cornerstone of your entire sonic brand. Think of an artist like Pop Smoke, God rest his soul. That specific UK drill sound became his sonic identity.
Right. If he heard another rapper on one of those signature 808 mellow beats, it would dilute his brand. It would feel like someone was copying him.
Exactly. If you are building a very specific, unique sonic identity and you cannot bear the thought of hearing another artist on that texture, that's when you might buy the exclusive up front. You aren't paying for potential streams. You are paying for brand insurance. You're protecting your sound from dilution.
You're protecting the logo, essentially.
Correct. It's a strategic branding move, not just a financial one.
Okay, we've covered the types, we've covered the strategy. Now I want to get into the danger zone, segment 4. The minefield. Because as we dug into this, we realized there are some common myths and mistakes that don't just cost you money, they can actually get your accounts banned and your music taken down.
The cardinal sin of beat licensing. We touched on this a little bit with the content ID discussion, but we need to scream this from the rooftops.
Registering non-exclusive beats with YouTube Content ID.
Do not do, ever.
Let's role play the disaster so people can really feel the pain. I'm a new artist. I get a beat from BeatPass. I'm super excited. I upload my song to my distributor, like DistroKid. I'm clicking through the upload form. I see a little checkbox that says, register for YouTube content ID, get paid when other people use your music.
And you think, hey, I like getting paid. Of course I want to get paid. It sounds like a great idea, so you check the box.
What have I just done? What catastrophic chain of events have I just set in motion?
You have just armed a robotic lawyer with a faulty instruction and sent it to attack your own producer and every other artist who used that beat.
Nervously. That sounds really bad.
It is catastrophic. DistroKid, or whoever your distributor is, takes your track and submits its fingerprint to YouTube's database. YouTube's system then scans the entire platform. It finds the producer's original upload of the instrumental. It finds the 5 other artists who legally leased the beat and made their own songs. And it issues copyright strikes against all of them on your behalf.
So the producer wakes up to an email saying that they are infringing on my copyright.
On their own beat. The one they created from scratch.
They're going to be absolutely furious.
Furious doesn't even begin to cover it. They will immediately contact DistroKid. They will provide their project files and prove that they own the original beat. And DistroKid, or TuneCore, or CD Baby will look at your account and say, this person committed fraud.
Fraud, that's a strong word.
You falsely claimed exclusive ownership of something you didn't own. In the digital world, that is fraud. They will very likely ban your account. They can freeze all of your royalties, meaning they keep all your money from all your songs, and they can blacklist you, making it difficult to use other distributors in the future.
You could lose your entire catalog and all your earnings over one mistaken checkbox.
Yes, this is not treated as an oops mistake. It is treated as a serious violation of the digital music ecosystem's trust. So, rule number 1, tattooed on your forehead. If you do not hold the exclusive paperwork for a beat, do not touch that Content ID button.
Period. End of story.
Okay.
Let's bust a slightly lighter, but still common myth. The Spotify myth. We get this question a lot. Can 2 different artists have a song with the same beat on Spotify?
Yes, it happens every single day.
It feels wrong though, doesn't it? It feels like wearing the exact same dress to a party. You walk in and you see someone else wearing it, and it's awkward.
It might feel socially awkward, but legally and technically, the bouncer at the door does not care.
Does the Spotify algorithm care? Will it flag my song as duplicate content?
No. Spotify's duplicate content filter is looking for a 100% identical audio files. Because you recorded your unique vocals and the other artist recorded their unique vocals, the final audio waveforms are different. The system sees them as 2 completely unique songs.
So if I'm on a playlist and I hear my beat on someone else's track, I shouldn't panic and think I've been hacked.
No, you should probably high-five them or at least give them a nod. You both have good taste. Maybe you should do a remix together.
Laughs. There you go. Turn a potential conflict into a collaboration.
Exactly. It's a sign of a popular beat, that's all.
One last legal distinction, and this is a bit technical, but it's super important for all the artists out there who want to own their masters.
Yeah.
The difference between buying an exclusive license and a copyright transfer.
This is where people get tripped up on that word own. It's a tricky word.
So if I buy the exclusive for $5,000, do I now own the copyright to the music? Am I the sole owner?
Usually, no, you don't.
Wait, really? I just paid $5,000. What did I buy?
You paid for exclusive usage rights. You bought the right to be the only person to commercially exploit that beat from that day forward. But the producer typically retains the actual copyright ownership of the underlying musical composition, the melody, the chord progression, the arrangement.
So they're still the author of the music in the eyes of the law.
Yes. And this really matters for things like publishing royalties. It matters if the song gets placed in a movie or a TV show. You usually still have to split that back-end money with the producer according to the terms of the exclusive contract.
So if I want to own it 100%, like the producer's completely out of the picture, they sign away all their rights, and they never speak to me again. What is that called?
That is called a buyout, or a work-for-hire agreement. That is a completely different type of contract. It's a full copyright transfer, and it usually costs a lot more than a standard exclusive license.
So don't just assume that the word exclusive means I am the captain now.
Never assume. Always read the fine print. The terms vary wildly from producer to producer. One producer's premium lease might be another's basic. The label on the button doesn't matter. The legal text in the contract is the only thing that does.
This has been Frankly, a massive download of information. My brain is completely full. But I feel like we've peeled back a layer of the music industry that is so often intentionally hidden or confusing.
It is the plumbing of the industry. It's not the sexy part. No one writes songs about contract law, but if the plumbing leaks, it floods the entire house and ruins everything.
So let's bring it all home. If I'm a listener, I'm an artist, I'm sitting back in that chair at 2 a.m., what are the key takeaways from this whole deep dive?
I think the main takeaway is that the industry is evolving to be more artist-friendly, but only if you know where to look. The old model of punitive stream caps and penalizing success is fading. It's a dinosaur. It doesn't work in the modern streaming world.
And the meteor that's taking out the dinosaur is the subscription model.
It is. Platforms like BeatPass are proving that you can have a sustainable, healthy ecosystem without needing to count every single stream. They allow you to experiment, to fail, to grow without going into debt.
So the strategy is start small and safe.
Start small, but think big. Use the subscription model. Download those uncapped perpetual non-exclusives. Build your catalog, test your sound, find your voice. Don't let your ego bankrupt you by buying exclusives you don't actually need yet.
But be ready to strike when the iron is hot.
Yes. When the data tells you that you have a hit, when the market speaks, don't hesitate. Pull the trigger. Upgrade to the exclusive. Own your success. Invest in your winners.
I want to leave the listeners with one final thought to chew on. So we've talked a lot about rights and ownership today, and you made a point in the notes for this deep dive that really stuck with me. It was this concept of rented land.
It's a powerful image, I think.
If you build your entire career solely on non-exclusive beats, you are, in a sense, building a house on rented land. You can build a beautiful mansion, you can throw great parties in it, you can invite millions of people over to visit. But at the end of the day, the ground beneath your feet, the foundation, belongs to someone else.
It is a fundamentally vulnerable position. You are secure now, especially with modern perpetual licenses, but you don't control the foundation of your own art.
And I think the question every artist has to ask themselves is, at what point does the rent of sharing your sound with others outweigh the cost of owning it outright?
That is the balance. And there's no single right answer. Only the artist can decide that for themselves.
On that note, go read your contracts, go make some noise, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
Take care, everyone.